Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Ketchup and I'm joined on commentary as always by Mustard, and this is the fourth and final week of the EU qualifier for the Quake World Championship.
And that is ultimately what this broadcast tonight is going to be about. Up until this point, we've been talking about how week after week it's been. You try and make it down to the top 16, where you'll play out in what is basically the top 8, or no, play down to the top 16, I should say, for Sunday, where every match will be a make or break to find out who will be the 8 best players of the week who will qualify for the European Regional Finals for the Quake World Championships. Normally, leading up until this point, we've been saying, don't worry if you don't make it in this week, because you can always try again next time. This isn't the case this week. This is your last chance, and all these players that are going to be ready to play over the next couple of hours, this is their final opportunity to make the finals. Most of them have tried week after week, and this is ultimately where it comes down to crunch time.
So let's take a look at the quick schedule to see how we got up to this point to begin with. As you can see, it's been 4 qualifiers for Duel, the 1v1 mode of Quake Champions, but we've had 2 qualifiers for Sacrifice as well, which is the 4 versus 4. They're now finished. We know exactly what teams we're going to see in the EU Regional, and we've already gone through 3 different qualifiers for EU Duel. Now, as you mentioned, right, this is the do or die. This is the last chance the players that have yet to qualify will have. Now, that's going to open up loads of different opportunities and possibilities for players to be nervous or a little bit anxious because they tried to qualify through previous weeks and still haven't quite made it that far. There are some players that haven't entered every single qualifier either, so they've had less opportunities. But ultimately, I'm really interested to see what players will actually rise to this situation and who will be the 4th set of qualifiers into the regionals. Now, break down before we get into our first match, and that's getting sorted out as soon as possible. What is the regionals? Why is it so important?
So the regionals will be what ultimately these last 4 weeks, these players through Sacrifice and through Duel have been putting the grind in for to reach. So there's going to be a European and North American regionals where whoever makes it will play there to define who will actually be sent to the Quake World Championships. Well, quite soon now, actually. We've almost been saying, you know, in the next sort of few months or so.
It is fast approaching.
It is now quickly coming around the corner, and we already have some of the absolute best players, especially in this region of the world too. Long ago qualified, many of them already sort of, you know, week 1, week 2. Even some of the, you know, more expected names, like for example, Kilson was able to qualify last week after trying for 3 weeks, and some other big names like that. We kind of expect that to run through today as well. But ultimately, it's all about making the regional finals, because if you place well at the regionals, then you get sent to the Quake World Championship finals next month. Now it's next month.
So while we get this next match, or our first match of the stream underway, which is going to be dibe versus Zanes, we're going to run you through exactly who qualified last week. So in this list, we have Kilson, as you just mentioned, Smoke, Inns, Strengths, Razy, Break, Pikawa, and Slip. Now, you recognize quite a few of those names, and they've finally been able to really sort of break the mold in week 3 and qualify, but in this 4th and final week, especially in these first initial stages, some of these players might be going into this broadcast a little bit ropey. They may be a bit like, well, I've tried 3 times, haven't quite made it, and as this is a final opportunity, these first matches might be the most nerve-wracking matches they've played so far.
They might be, but regardless of how it goes, they're going to have to make sure they keep themselves together. Because even last week, we saw a ton of, like, last round situations.
Oh, really
close. The games do get close now, and obviously the meta of the game itself, especially the duel mode, has been sort of shifting quite substantially over the last 4 weeks. There's been a lot of stability in terms of like champion picks, because ultimately that's really what it boils down to. Let's not forget, for those of you watching that might be here for the first time, the duel mode, the 1v1, the way this works is you pick 3 champions and then your opponent picks 3 champions. You have to take each other down with 1 life per champion until your champions have defeated all of theirs. You do that in a 3 out of 5 match sort of setting where there's 3 out of 5 rounds to 1 game, and then it's first to 2 games, or maps I should say, first to 2 maps, and 3 out of 5 rounds per map. So you have to defeat your opponent on 2 maps in a 3 out of 5 round setting, which obviously has a scope for a lot of different champions being used. Some players are favoring teams, some players are picking champions based on the map, some of them are going by just comfort or even trying to counter whatever champions the enemy players can be bringing to the table.
It also comes down to a variation of playstyles. Some of these champions play like previous Quakes or different Quakes. But going into this champion pick, I believe this is not actually the champion pick. This is a previous video. Oh, no, quite. Never mind. We had that in the audio, but that's gone now. So we're going to go through the champions we're going to see. It's Blood Covenant for this first map. Very traditional pick with Ranger and Nyx automatically coming out of Zanes. Not surprised to see this at all. I think as all 4 weeks have progressed, it's actually a complete mirror composition. This is going to be all 3 champions exactly the same. right?
Well, you know, we're sort of just briefly mentioning stability before, Ranger, Nyx, two of those champions that we see very commonly throughout all 4 weeks, and it's not a big surprise to see that sort of continue today. Scalebearer on Blood Covenant is also quite popular. Scalebearer is kind of like diving in and out of favor depending on, I think it's mainly the players. Like if the player really sort of favors that big champion we'll be seeing. So when it comes to those sort of big body picks, it's going to be Sorlag, Scalebearer, or Clutch. And I think out of the three of them, Clutch is probably the one that's kind of gone from the almost zero to hero story, right? Where early on, before we started, it was almost barely picked at all in 1v1s. Then he got the generous buff, which has really helped him out. Then we started to see him a little bit more and more, to now we see him very regularly. And some of those sort of top players really almost like pioneered Clutch as to now the way we see him in 1v1.
Well, I mean, Agent, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, Scalebearer in particular, he's going to be useful because one thing Ranger and Nyx will both do really effectively is really bounce around Blood Covenant and go essentially wherever they want to go with no problems. Scalebearer, even though he's a large and tanky champion, will be able to go toe-to-toe with that because he can go for his bull rush, he can go where he wants to go on the map without much issues, and he can move around just as quickly as they can. So a traditional start, normally it's one player spawns near Mega Health, the other would need heavy armor, and this time round, dibe getting that Mega Health already with Rangers is going to be quite useful for him.
Yes, indeed. We're actually quite, I mean, like you said yourself, right? Maybe some sort of timidness as we start over here, just as we know what's on the line today. But already starting things off quite standard right now. So it's going to be Ranger versus Nyx. So it's going to be quite hard for Ranger to get that sort of like chase down potential. But if he can actually hit that Dire Orb like direct, Nyx is going to get absolutely melted by that.
Yeah, especially at this current health and armor state, even though he's got 75 HP with only 22 armor. Gotta watch out. Actually caught him a little bit slipping. Almost trades a rocket for a rail, but not quite.
Yeah, he's
Zanes
chasing the kill. He knows dibe's low. He's got the rail. He can finish him off. Oh! And there we go. Read him like a book. Was obviously going to go towards that Mega Health. And Zanes with a very strong start in map number 1.
That was a really good play as well. Using the sort of just the speed boost and then the Ghost Walk to try and go undetected. Tags him with a free rail right before he gets access to Mega Health. So a really good win for him. So it's going to be a Nyx mirror at the moment.
Well, that was just one of those all-in-one situations, right? He got the frag and was able to take Mega Health for himself. So it's almost like complete control straight away. But right as I can say that, the heavy armor has spawned now.
Very important that he was able to get the rail, but the important thing here is that Zanes was able to not only get that heavy armor, but makes the sequence down to heavy or Mega Healths as well.
Well, we've already seen just how significant it can be to get the rail, especially when you're fighting against the Nyx. But as obviously both of them using Nyx right now, very susceptible to direct rockets or rails, just down to that sheer damage output. But both players controlling it so far. Right here we can see Zanes trying to control this heavy armor. Has managed to pick it up, so he's going to be a little bit tankier here. Is he chasing the kill?
Yeah, Zanes, I think, just dibe trying to get out of there, I think, at this stage. Doesn't want to have anything to do with it. But again, it's going to be that free pickup for both heavy armor and Mega Health together. So going in for the fight, I think he knows he's healthy enough to really take this to him.
I think he definitely would have been able to do that, but unfortunately missing the rail, getting a little bit of a read on where she's going to be now. Here's the armor getting picked up, so he knows she's there.
Oh, that's an important rail. No armor on deck.
dibe very weak right now. We can sort of see him stuck in a negative situation, and there we go, another rail. Zanes is going to pick that one up too, and now we find Scalebearer by himself, trying to take out an entire team from the side of Zanes.
The twist in the tail here is going to be that dibe is going to have much more natural health on this spawn, but Zanes with so much armor, he may even be able to fight this if he can just quickly snatch that Mega.
He's trying full health. Anything, no. Yes, and a heavy machine gun will do enough by itself too. I actually think the LG probably wasn't going to reach from down there, I want to say, but the machine gun, much more of a stable way. If he can get this quick return frag, he might be able to even things up straight away. And yes, he has. Wow, dibe with a very swift comeback already now, taking it down to Scalebearer versus Scalebearer.
I feel like that was actually a really good spawn for Zanes as well, because he spawned right near the rail, which in that situation was exactly the weapon that he needed. He just wasn't able to close it out. He got one rail, but it wasn't going to be enough. And dibe looking really solid. I mean, he has a little bit less health, but plenty of armor. A lot more than Zanes, that's for sure.
Trying to send him off now. The Mega Health goes in the way of Zanes, who's able to control that for now. Heavy armor coming up in about 10 seconds. But right now, sort of just trying to cycle through, picking up all these weapons. Currently, though, we've seen that Zanes does not have a rail, which against Scalebearer can be a bit of a matchup changer. But
yeah, no doubt.
Rocket launcher. Oh, wow. He smells blood. He's going in. No! He decides to double back.
I think he just changed his mind. Maybe try and go towards heavy armor instead, but, well, either way, he's not going to get punished too heavily. Staying there, confident, he had more than enough health to really get the job done there. Quite a good idea to get the rocket, and then when he realized he'd done 80 damage, then go in for the ball rush and try and finish it off. But in that stage, it was just going to be mobility, I think. He's going to get one round.
Also super important that he had the access to the lightning gun there, though, because let's not forget, these bigger champions, they might have much higher health and armor pools, but they are bigger sort of targets to hit in retaliation. Yeah. So in this sort of like close 1v1 situations, you're probably not going to miss much of any of that LG.
Yeah, I think when it's one good player versus another, it's very unlikely that a decent player is going to miss those chunkier champions with almost any of the lightning gun. So
it's crazy just how quickly, though, they can sort of get around this map as soon as the round starts. We would see both of them have access to the rocket launcher. Missing that rail, unfortunately, though. Ghost Walk can see it's been popped.
Yeah, that's the important thing. He's seen that he's going for it, so he's actually ready for action, but going so fast towards the Mega Health. That was a clean steal. Now, dibe, he's got to get out of there.
Yeah, Zane's using this Ghost Walk very aggressively. We see this sort of every now and then. These duels can be used quite passively if you want to sort of escape, but if you're ready to almost like use it as an assassination in some ways, just to sort of, you know, be invisible, appear behind them, and get that quick point blank, especially when you've got something like a rocket launch that can just put out that damage.
Well, it's definitely an ability that can be used offensively and defensively. One of the most versatile abilities in the whole game, without a doubt. And that predicted rocket actually didn't connect on dibe, so I think Zanes may not be sure that he's actually going to be there at all.
Not quite sure, though. We can see dibe with a nice amount of armor here, full up on health too. Miguel picked up, so quite a tanky ranger at this point, especially in comparison to the Nyx. Oh no, there's another rail that's going to connect.
Now Zanes at this point is likely to have his Ghost Walk back. He's going to go towards that heavy armor, try and really sort of take it safely. Another trade, really. Mega health for heavy armor is quite a classic thing that we see in Duel.
We've already seen how fast these rounds are sort of going in the favor of Zanes so far. I mean, already one round on the board, so I think dibe is just going to have to be quite careful how he approaches this. Ghost Walk used aggressively again. Oh, wow. Unfortunately hits the wall.
Yeah, that was
a ton of damage to himself.
Really unfortunate, because he's also used up his Ghost Walk, so he's not going to have that escape, but it doesn't matter. Managed to take out dibe anyway, and again, this time around actually going towards the Scale Bearer rather than the Nyx.
I like how Zanes is constantly just forcing these fights. As soon as he knows the Mega Health is like a few seconds away from spawning, he goes in straight away and just forces dibe to decide whether he's going to prioritize the pickup or try and get the kill.
That was really well played. Unfortunately, did actually manage to miss that rail. I think no doubt if he landed it would have gone in for the kill, but the important thing there was really sort of taking that away from dibe and then knowing that he was stacked enough that he could just get that free rocket jump, because the rocket jump damage was going to be nowhere near the ball rush damage.
Always going to miss that one.
That was cheeky.
Yeah, big target and Scale Bearer.
dibe didn't know he was there either, walking to try and sort of mask his movement, but just didn't look to his left.
But now that we noticed that dibe still doesn't have access to a rail against someone like Nyx, you want to make sure you have access to that if you can. Oh no, misses the jump too. dibe looking a little bit not as comfortable right now as Zanes. Oh wow, and there's that Nyx movement we talk about all the time. Just being able to get to anywhere she wants to be. And again, we see that Ghost Walk used, trying to get that Mega Health almost soon. But yeah, I think dibe expected Zanes to be there for Mega Health. He saw him turn around right as it started to spawn, but dibe opted not to do it. No, I think Zanes, I should say, now dibe's got it.
It kind of looks a little bit like Zanes stood there for that split second, and then when he realized he only had 30 HP left, he got out there as fast as possible. Definitely don't want to stay there against a Scale Bearer with that much health.
Yeah, exactly. Heavy armor up 2. Question is who's going to be the first one to get it. Yeah, we can see
he's got the read.
Zanes able to get it.
And because he used that Ghost Walk earlier, he's unlikely to have it now, so he's not going to be able to get away without it. And now he's in just a horrendous situation. Very weak. Here comes the LG, and that's more than enough. Now he's down to Ranger or Scale Bearer. Goes in for Ranger.
Right, looks like dibe's trying to stock himself up once again. Not too squishy right now, but...
Oh, definitely not. Not with that 75 armor too.
Yes, indeed.
Make that a Mega Health also. There's that missed rail. Really kind of has Zanes in that tricky situation. Going back towards the rocket.
Oh, unfortunately missing that quick snappy rail. Heavy armor is up. Is he going to actually be able to pick it up in time, Zanes? Oh no! Unfortunately, he kills himself. Now, you don't really see Ranger do that every now and then due to that passive that makes him take reduced damage to himself, but I think Zanes kind of just thought, I need to get out of here. Probably tried to rocket jump up towards the bridge and ultimately just not enough damage to take it.
That's not the first time he got caught in a bad situation near that heavy armor as well. Consistently, he's sort of got a good read on that. And he's caught him in a situation where he can't really escape. Last time he caught it when the Nyx had no Ghost Walk and was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And right there, just not enough health to get out of there.
I think Scale Bearer definitely not looking like a stable champion for dibe though. We saw him almost make a full comeback in the round 1 and round 2. Almost able to tie things up now, but Only 30 seconds left to go. dibe does have the champion lead, so if we do find ourselves in a timeout situation in 30 seconds, dibe will win this round. Zanes has to make something work very quickly. You can already hear he's just used his bull rush though, maybe just trying to close some space, but won't have it for this next fight within these next 20 seconds. I think dibe might be content just trying to keep his distance here to win the round on the timeout.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for him to pull it back, not only with the distance they have, but just how heavily stacked dibe is at the moment. I'm willing to call this a free round. I mean, he's got one rail, but he's still got hit him with 2 more in 5 seconds. Really unlikely. Unfortunately, doesn't quite get the jump over the bridge anyway, and that was going to be too much time wasted. Not able to take the round. So it's 1-1. Quite a slow-paced game so far, for sure.
Indeed. I mean, but that's what we kind of expected to see, right? There is a lot of... That's all right, the time. Looks like Zanes maybe forgot about that little factor, but we kind of expected to see this caution. You know, we kind of expected this caution to be exercised this week. Let's not forget, you know, this might be quite slow, and you might think these guys are being a bit too careful, but ultimately, they are playing for a shot at the European Regionals, right? They want to qualify for Sunday. They want to get down to the top 16 today.
That was a good read. Just knew he was going to go through that teleport, getting that free rail, especially seeing as he's actually taken the mega health already. So it's going to be quite a while before he can get that health back up. A really good job of basically just undoing that damage. Here comes Zanes, being a little bit aggressive.
Promise dibe has no weapons right now, only a heavy machine gun. That's literally all he has to do. And Zanes hits that rail.
Yeah, he's in a bad spot. He just picked up a heavy machine gun, but that's not going to be enough to survive this ranged game that we're currently seeing Zanes go for.
So mega health is up, goes in the way of Zanes once again. Has control of this immediately. Heavy armor going to be up soon. I expect there'll be a little bit of fight breaking out here.
We just noticed actually on that Spectator, he used up his Dire Orb too, so that will be down. Got to be really careful. He's super weak as well. He's going to be able to get a little bit of health and armor here, but again, versus a Nyx that is that stacked with rail, he can't really afford to get picked off. Oh no, the prediction rockets through the teleport gets hit again, and it's going to be good for Zanes. You just heard those rockets before he even went through that teleport. That was 2 for 2 right now on this round. He's got a good read on when dibe was going to go for that teleporter.
Once again, dibe opting to go for that scale barrier though, has eaten a rail, so all of his armor has gone.
I like that.
A little bit of damage.
I like that little double jump actually, trying to sort of catch him with the rail a little bit higher up than I think dibe was prepared to look.
Maybe he has access to an LG though. We've seen how dangerous that can be versus big body champions.
Oh, he's caught him again.
Actually, Zanes has been on point with rails, especially against the scale barrier. Oh, he's chasing it. Is he going to get the frag or is he going to have to run away?
It's actually quite risky on both ends. Zanes, I mean, he's actually going for those sort of just safety rockets to try and run away. Did collect that mega health too, but that was actually quite risky on both parts, because even though it was scale barrier, he was super weak also. But
well, Zanes definitely hasn't been afraid to go in and really force these engagements, but in situations like that, when you just see you have that little health left, sometimes you just can't fight.
But with a Nyx Ghost Walk available, you can afford to be as bold as we're seeing Zanes currently go for. Especially seeing he's now got that champion advantage right now, so he's going to be able to really lay that pressure on.
Almost again doesn't have a rail, so can't swap to it for that quick guaranteed hit.
Unable to capitalize, but he's still trying to really sort of pepper those rockets, but versus an enemy with rail, this is a little bit risky. And again, Zanes heading towards that heavy armor, trying to get that armor back once again. But
you're most likely going to be guaranteed it at this point. I don't know if dibe can stop him. I don't think it's quite close enough yet. Mega health being up in 10 seconds. A Ghost Walk used aggressively. Perhaps a little bit too early here.
He's using it. Well,
do you think Zanes heard him do that?
He's been using it preemptively a lot, and unfortunately doesn't get that rail. That would have been very important to at least just establish that from far away, but he's been consistently using the Ghost Walk extremely preemptively, and it's most of the time it's actually been working out for him, so you can't fault it too much, but when it doesn't work and then you're just without it, it can be a really bad situation.
Well, that's actually been specifically quite a favoured thing, though, for Zanes. He's using the Ghost Walk aggressively right as he thinks mega health. Oh no! LG from below! Still has loads of health left to go, though, over 100.
He misses the rail again. That's 2 times now. And again, going after the bull rush, but they trade it off for the Ghost Walk. No damage here at all.
Yeah, Zanes gets out. Looks like he just tried to top himself up in the middle.
It's quite smart staying in the middle, though. Around that area, you're going to quite comfortably sort of hear where Scale Bearer is running around.
So far, all 3 rounds, though, going down to the sort of post 3-minute mark. Even though we actually see ourselves fighting a lot, we're not actually getting a lot of frags.
Oh, I caught him on the teleporter as a read, but unfortunately the rockets just weren't on target. So even though he was actually correct, he's not going to get any damage on the table. But going into that 1 minute 10-second mark, and again, Zanes with that champion advantage.
Right as he swapped away from the rail, he came around the corner. That's unfortunate. From Zanes, he committed to it for just 1 second longer. Maybe would have got that guaranteed 80 damage. See, Mega Health is going to be spawning up though. Does dibe have a timer on it? I'm quite sure he was quite close. Oh, Ghost Walk popped it immediately. I don't know if Zanes wanted anything to do with a Scale Bearer with a rocket launcher right in his face.
Yeah, he just wants to get out of there, and he's got quite a long cooldown, but if he can sort of collect those hourglasses effectively, he might be able to have it before he gets caught next. But you can see here, dibe, he really has to push this. He can't afford to be careful at all because, I mean, there's 35 seconds. If he doesn't get this, he's going to go down around to another timeout.
We're already seeing how easy it can be to run away as some of these smaller champions. You know, I think the biggest example being Anarchy. How many times have we seen Anarchy, especially sort of zip around to run that clock? But now dibe has to make a bold read to try and chase him down within his next 20 seconds, or he is going to lose this round as well.
Yeah, it's unlikely Zanes can fight too. We actually saw only one rocket left. That preemptive bull rush, maybe trying to catch him off guard.
And we know Zanes has Ghost Walk too. Realistically, much less than it seems.
I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, that's it. He didn't make the read, unfortunately. He tried, but he's going to be able to chase him down. Zanes takes the round.
Well, when you're being as careful as we saw Zanes being, going for that walking, so he's going to mask his own footsteps, you can't hear him around, in combination with the fact that he can navigate the map really quickly, he's got that Ghost Walk to become not only invisible, but completely damage immune during that time. She is one of the best champions to survive with, even though she has low health.
Makes you wonder if we should actually see dibe starting with the Scale Bearer as first choice. So you think about it, Scale Bearer definitely seems to be his most comfortable, but he keeps losing his first champion quite quickly and is then forced in that 2v3 situation where he then ultimately has the time against him all the time.
You think maybe that health advantage might help him early on if he can catch a good spawn?
I mean, perhaps, yeah. I mean, we've already seen his Scale Bearer take out multiple of Zane's champions before, so if he can actually turn the tide himself and get that first frag, then he'll actually be able to be the aggressor for a change. But ultimately, he finds himself down almost every single round because he loses that first champion quickly and then goes straight to the Scale Bearer.
So he's looking to make that cycle towards the heavy armor because he had that really good start using that dire orb to secure both the rail and the heavy armor. He's able to get to Mega Health a little bit quicker, but again, Zane's forced to use that Ghost Walk. If dibe can catch him now, he's in a good spot. But
especially when we look like he's got the rocket, the LG, and the rail. He's got those 3 magic weapons. We know
magical triangle.
Like, that's the one, right? That is that fundamental loadout that you need to make sure you've got control of, and right now has all 3 of them. This is looking good for dibe though. Looking good in the pickups. Has Mega Health too. A little bit of armor, almost fully stacked, but definitely close enough to take some damage here.
Oh, I think he caught him there. Does catch one rocket. He's going to have to make a read on where he goes. Uses the invisibility time to actually try and secure the heavy armor. So he's going to get that regardless. Zane's really weak too. If he can catch a good rocket, gets one. No, 13 damage only. That's nowhere near enough.
That was a little bit close. That would have been disastrous.
Oh, he just heard the armor though. No doubt he heard that armor, which is why he's jumped down. He needs to get this early frag. He cannot afford Zanes to be the one that's in control of the pace of the map. It's one thing Zanes has done. He's been surviving. He's been doing such a good job of just staying alive and kind of just zigzagging around. It's been hard for him to recover from that.
Unfortunately, dibe's rails particularly haven't been that on point yet in this map, so when you have a character like Nyx that you really have to get that serious amount of damage down early, you have to make sure that that damage is counting and you're taking that full 80 damage every time. Ultimately isn't as much of a threat, so a champion like Nyx is able to run away a little bit more, is surviving for longer than usual, and in return, Zanes is hitting a lot of his.
Well, one thing to take away so far is that we haven't seen a frag just yet. We did actually see Zanes caught sight of him, but no rail.
Ghost Walk used to pick up this Mega Health.
Oh, nice patience. He did not see him go invisible there. He just lied and waited. And the second dibe tried to secure that Mega Health. He's in such a bad spot, but the wall saves him ever so slightly.
You'll see those of them. You'll see that as soon as dibe actually hit that rail in that fight, Zanes was immediately forced to run away. Normally, Zanes has kind of been choosing as and when. He's been choosing what fights to run away from, which ones to chase down. As soon as he hit that rail, Zanes had no choice but to just get out straight away. But dibe now finds himself low once again.
But now dibe is so weak, I think it's almost quite obvious that he's going to try and secure that Mega Health. And no doubt we see the Zanes, that's why he's gone in to really try and put that pressure on. If you catch someone with low health, and you know they have to go for these important pickups, it makes that next play so much more advantageous for you, because they have to go there, unless, you know, they try and zip around and go beyond just defaults. But Zanes with the absolute ambush, and now he's in control again. dibe going forward, Scale Bearer once more, but we've seen how well Zanes can survive against this champion. I think he's going to look to really play that defensive game. Catches him with the bull rush, only taking 45 damage, but not a huge amount of health because he's just caught him on, oh, sorry, armor I should say, because he just caught him on the spawn. So the bull rush didn't help him that much.
Unfortunately, there were only 1.5 minutes left to go. We had such a bit of a stalemate for the majority of what could be this final round. Unfortunately, dibe wasn't able to get that first frag, so now once again he finds himself on the back foot. Getting a lot of this heavy machine gun damage though, peppering down. Zanes might still have the Ghost Walk available. Can't remember how long it took for it to come back. That's a big rocket! Oh. No, unfortunately he could not put out enough damage. And dibe loses his Scale Bearer as well. Now 1 minute left to take out 3 champions.
I mean, if one champion could make a comeback, it's going to be Nyx, but unfortunately during that fight, dibe was just unable to get the amount of damage on that heavy machine gun that he needed. He landed a little bit at the start, but as the fight went on for longer and longer, just the amount of misses were really prominent. And because of that, also not having a rail when he caught that guaranteed rocket, dibe in a heap of trouble. Zanes staying true.
He's got a choice to make here. Does he stay for this fight despite being low on health? He knows the heavy armor's just gone on the way of Zanes, but can he actually afford to try and get out of this one? Only 35 seconds left to go and 3 champions to take down. Oh, Zanes with that prediction rocket is going to take map 1 in dominating, but very slow fashion.
Yeah, well, sometimes dominant win doesn't just come down to speed, and right there it was just good awareness of how to survive and how to really sort of just run rings around whoever you're against. And we saw that put into good practice, just really good knowledge of what kind of map he wanted to play on, Blood Covenant. As a predetermined map, that's one really important thing to mention here, in that at the start of a series, depending on what stage of the tournament we're at, the map will be predetermined for the first time. And if that's a map you're comfortable on, all the better, because if you then lose or win, you know, you have the chance to play on another map that you're comfortable with, and it's just a nice little cycle as a player. But right there, I think Zanes just looked in full control.
Of course, but now we're going to see that dibe is going to be able to pick the map that he wants now. So let's say, for example, Blood Covenant might not be his favorite map. Now he, as the loser of the first map, has the opportunity to now choose what map 2 is going to be. Ultimately, if he loses this, he is going to be out, and his opportunity at the regionals will go down with it. Maybe we can see him go to something he's a little bit more comfortable with now. And we've already seen, for example, let's say, for example, Scale Bearer looking like one of his most comfortable champions. Scale Bearer and those big body ones that just want to chase you down and not give you much room to run away, Corrupted Keep. We see that picked quite often in this kind of situation. So, for example, if you're against an opponent that is just getting away from you and running away consistently and it is giving you a lot of problems, Corrupted Keep just, you know, sort of shortens things down, doesn't give you that much space to run around, and when you're playing those big champions, just makes you quite intimidating to deal with.
Well, the most prominent champion we definitely saw from dibe was the Scale Bearer, so whether he picks a map around that champion...
Well, without hesitation too, like he was, it's actually going to be Blood Run, but without hesitation, like he'd lose a champion and go straight to Scale Bearer every single time.
But never pick Scale Bearer first. I think he really wanted that mobility. Light champions at the start, with the exception of Clutch, are quite popular, and I think it's because of early mobility, something that Clutch has as well. But one glaring weakness I think we saw on Blood Covenant that can't be ignored, I think, is aim. The aiming on the side of dibe, he left a lot of damage on the table because he didn't take those shots where they could have been better. And because of that, it kind of just allowed Zanes to run wild and play that heavily defensive game, because he'd take a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there, but it's very easy for him to get away and then stack back up. So when the next fight happened, maybe a rail would hit, but it would never finish him, so he could get away once again and just continue to play that cycle of defense. He really needs to, I think, address that here. He needs to make sure when he gets that damage, he takes it with both hands, and it gives him a much better chance.
But Blood Run is going to be the second map anyway, and we've seen Blood Run quite a lot already over the last 4 weeks. There seems to be a familiar map for a lot of our players.
Oh, it's classic, right?
But also, with Ranger on this map particularly, normally that sort of center room is quite dangerous to fight in. On Blood Run, obviously the heavy armor, the mega health, all being quite close to each other in terms of just how quickly you can get from one to the other, and the rail being right down there in the bottom as well. So there definitely seems to be almost like a common point where we see a lot of fights breaking out, but both players right now running Ranger, who can, I'd say, get around this map a little bit safer than others, but in, I suppose, a bit more of a predictable fashion as a trade-off.
Sometimes it can be the map of a certain champion, but already actually Zanes with that read, he really knew that dibe was going to go straight for that heavy armor. And if you start a little bit closer towards that mega health, it might be quite an advantage for you, where you can kind of quickly snap up that mega health and then immediately just kind of plant yourself. Because you spawn near Lightning Gun too, you can really plant yourself there.
Well, it's also a case of knowing where you're going to spawn and assuming where the opponent's going to be, because you know where you spawned. It's only one way they can be, and if you're going to pick up the mega health, it's a safe bet that the opponent's going to go straight for the heavy armor.
But it's normally that classical trade-off, but that rail, very important. Pretty much undoing all that mega health he's been able to get back. Oh no, fumbles his jump, and unfortunately actually forced to use his Dire Orb because he didn't quite get the jump he wanted.
Fortunately though, Dire Orb having one of the lower cooldowns. Oh, is he going to get the ambush?
Zanes heard him, but didn't get the grounded rocket because he was in the middle of a jump, so he's going to avoid that ground rocket for now. Actually, so far, Zanes missing every single rocket, and dibe with that punish.
That's a good start for dibe though, just to start things around. Let's not forget he has been on the back foot in almost every single round so far, even the one he won before.
That was almost on the money.
Finally able to get that first frag. That's something he needs to go for. And Zane's not sounding too happy about it in game chat, so perhaps showing dibe that Zane's is perhaps a little bit tilted right now. I sometimes feel like saying certain things in game chat might be a mistake, because if there's frustration and you're conveying that frustration you're basically letting your opponent know, right?
Yeah, for sure. You're admitting that you are currently frustrated. But sometimes doesn't affect certain players, so we'll see. Another slow start, really being patient. dibe taking that mega health. Right now, the missiles come down, or the rockets, but not going to be a huge amount, taking minimal damage, really.
Oh, wow, snapping behind him, but a lot of damage coming out. dibe, oh, wow, gets a nice rocket. Zanes.
He's in big trouble. He is in big trouble, doesn't quite get the rail.
But he was able to retreat onto the heavy armor, so Zane's still alive. But dibe looking a lot more confident in these fights now. I think maybe it's a space thing, but these rockets are definitely being a bit more on point than usual. But speaking of which, only has 5 left to go. We're going to see him try and top himself up.
I think that's why he's turning around to get more. And he would have seen the Dire Orb, but hasn't been able to take the Mega Health just yet. And unfortunately, does manage to catch him with the Mega Health, but misses the rail. So he's just going to get nothing but health back. Trying to go for those predictive rockets. Both players, and there we go. Zanes with that trade. 1 for 1 so far.
But now Zanes is onto this Ranger. He's still sort of implementing that I'm just going to rush you down and get in your face style. But now he's playing Ranger, who does less damage to himself. So you are going to be able to just get point blank and not worry as much about just shooting those rockets, which normally do a lot of splash damage. But Ranger takes such significantly reduced damage, it doesn't really matter as much.
He's caught dibe in a bad spot, but that's one of the things about Scalebow, all those large champions. If you get tagged by the odd rail here and there, it really isn't as pivotal as if you're playing someone like an Anarchy, because if you get hit, I mean, look how much health he's got. He got hit by 1 rail and then got the Mega, but it's like it never happened. But
trying to deny that heavy army. I don't think Zanes wants to make it too obvious that he's going there. Looking for that teleporter exit, trying to control that space. But right now, yeah, dibe being very patient, still sitting down here. He knows that Zanes is bound to go there eventually, and he takes a 90 damage rail, misses the follow-up though. That was not great, but he's looking a lot better at the very least.
Hang on, he's caught with the rocket. 2 big damage rockets. dibe running off, trying to really sort of get some of that back, but I think Zanes, he's confident. Really sort of confident gameplay. Even before he got that heavy armor, he was just confidently staying there because he realized he didn't really need to take that risk. But speaking of which, 100 rocket, and there's the bull rush as well. Road kill. Exactly.
Trading out champion for champion.
But look at how weak he is. He is in danger right here. He's got to be so careful.
Yeah, you can hear that he's nearby too. dibe has to be super careful. Zanes is close. Probably picked up the rail. Question is, I don't think he's going to have that much else weaponry at the moment to use, but we can see dibe being very slow here, just trying to regenerate this health in this blood pool.
But I think the longer it actually takes...
He's got this shotgun out. He wants to finish this off.
There's the exchange. I actually feel like that was a really good exchange for dibe, because the amount of time it took for Zanes to sit there and wait, just let dibe sit in that blood pool and regenerate. Just remember, guys, if you're sitting in a blood pool on any of these maps with blood in them, you tend to regenerate, and that's going to be good for dibe, just getting most of it back.
Also, it takes a while to regenerate to full health if you've got like a high max health pool, but at the same time we find ourselves with dibe with the champion lead now. 30 seconds left to go. Zanes is going to have to take this fight soon. Obviously, he cannot rush into things, otherwise he will just die. We can see that Zanes has a lot more armor and health to work with, but
he's also got the bull rush, and because of the damage reduction, bull rush is a very popular escape option. But we'll see if he has a chance to use it, but enough time for the 2 health to regenerate, so he's going to be on maximum health, and even with 25 armor and 150 HP is still a nice amount to survive for 10 seconds, and at this rate, inclined to think that dibe is going to take this round. This was a very slow-paced round, but dibe does manage to get 1 on the board at this stage. 2 seconds, that's it, guaranteed.
And that's going to be it, though. But let's not forget, we did mention this before, that we'd like to see him sort of almost get that first frag against Zanes. Unfortunately, he forgets the timer again. Going to have to make sure you're keeping that in mind, because if anything, it's basically going to be telling dibe he's not on point when it comes to watching these. He's not going to be on point when it comes to watching the clock. So when it comes down to lower amount, we know that he's not been quite as on point at dealing with it. And dibe is going to have that information.
Now that's the difference between starter champions. It was the same play where dibe actually collected that mega health and then immediately ran towards heavy armor to try and do exactly what happened to him in that first round. But because Zanes had the Nyx, nowhere near as much at risk. Because the second he got caught, just popped that Ghost Walk and that's it. In 10 seconds, he's going to have it back.
However, though, even more important for dibe to get that first champion, to get that first frag. We saw him actually, you know, for once be in the driver's seat for the majority.
Oh, 1 HP!
Dear.
That was almost a trade, but not today. That was very fortunate.
Speaking of fortunate, though, this is Nick, so it's going to be quite quickly for her to regenerate herself back up to max health, though. dibe went in straight back in for the scale bearer already. I do believe he just picked up the heavy armor, so he's going to be a big boy.
Indeed. Oh, and that's a guaranteed rail. No, even though he caught him mid-air, wasn't able to get that free damage.
Mega health coming up any second, though. We can see dibe. He's ready around to try and stop it. This fight, there we go, goes away with Nyx. It's a big rocket. And there we go, a second frag. Zanes, this is more what we saw in map 1, sort of coming back to what we saw before.
That's actually exactly the same frag that we saw.
Oh, dear.
Okay. Well, I was about to say that's exactly the same frag that we saw 2 times in a row, where we just caught him by that mega health and just won the fight. A little bit more comfortable. That's a really important rocket to catch on a Ranger just on spawn. He's not going to be overstacked in any degrry. He's now in big trouble. Just look at how little health he's got. He's just got a little bit back there, but that's nowhere near enough to survive a rail or a rocket or anything else. But he has been able to get out of there, so if he can remain undetected, he's going to be able to get back up, but for how long?
This is a bit more of an explosive round, though. You know, less than 2 minutes in, and we've already had 3 frags on the table. That's a bit of a far cry from what we've seen so far from these guys.
Yeah, it's a change of pace. But then saying that, Zanes again has got the champion limit.
That's one thing about this map particularly. You know, we see so much fighting in that sort of center room. I've never seen players hesitate so much before going for, like, the pickups as you do on this.
He actually does go in for the dire orb, so he's going to commit to this one. I think for a split second, dibe did not think he was going to do that, but still, minimal damage. He's got the Ghost Walk. He's going to get out of there, but just look how weak both of them are. They can't afford to fight.
I think Zanes did a good job of topping himself up in between, though, considering how much damage he took there. And as I can say that, secures himself the mega health too. Zanes looking really strong. Halfway point of the round is now done.
That's plenty of time to work with for both of these guys. There's that heavy armor. dibe. He is as stacked as he needs to be for the next fight. If it works out well for him, but again, back to that sort of middle. Both players really waiting, but sort of caught live each other. Minimal damage again. But the next fight, no doubt, is going to take place towards this mega health because it's up. This time, Zanes gets it.
Yeah, immediately taken. Zanes not wasting any time this time. Ghost Walk used aggressively. We're obviously going to see it not really have any impact, but question is, has Zanes seen it? Did he know it's down? Did he hear the Ghost Walk activated?
Well, you know, if he knows that it's gone, that's when you go in, because you realize he's not got that escape option.
And that's what we see a lot of the time. They hear the Ghost Walk get used, and they immediately force that fight, knowing that she doesn't have that escape option, but doesn't look like Zanes was quite aware. Don't think he was in range for it. Once again, we can see this sort of slow pace mega health coming up again. Yeah, and Zanes gets it straight away.
But importantly, dibe heard it. He now knows that he's going to have that, so.
But it does mean that heavy armor is going to be the next contention point, most likely, because I think dibe is going to have to know he kind of needs to get that heavy armor.
Oh, another miss. Is he going to go in? He does teleport towards it, though. I think maybe trying to steal, but
there's actually quite a swift take on that heavy armor by dibe, though. Was able to quite just sneak himself in. As soon as he saw the dire orb, he used that as an opportunity to go in. As soon as Zanes is thinking about, do I teleport or do I not, dibe is just going straight to the heavy armor.
Well, you said it was a change of pace, where we saw a lot more frags with quite a fast turnaround. 1 minute warning. Are we going to see another timeout here?
We might do. dibe needs to make something work within the next 60 seconds or so. We know the heavy armor's going to be coming up.
He heard him. Not got a Ghost Walk, but right now, minimal damage. Swapping towards the LG, confident he can take this one. I think this fight is absolutely necessary. Zanes has to get something happening, but let's see if he can do it.
I actually think the most important thing here for Zanes is to make sure that dibe can't pick up any of these big pickups.
I think that's what he did, actually. He ran in, just took the heavy armor and ran away. Because
oh, he's going in. Oh, good rockets. This could be it. This could be the tiebreaker, but he's on the wall.
Not enough
just to get away, but 20 seconds left to go. Every time Zanes survives this trade, it is in his favor, even though no one's dying. He does have that champion lead, 2-1 right now. dibe needs to make something work within the next 15 seconds or he's going to lose the round.
He's quite weak. If dibe just catches him off guard for a split second. Oh!
Wow, how
Never
about
mind. That? Never mind.
I took 1 second to go pick up my bottle of water, and as soon as I turn around, a rail out of nowhere.
You blinked and missed it, mate. You blinked and missed it. But that's 1-1 again.
You know, Zanes is going to be happy with that, though, for sure.
I feel like this, because I know this is the early stage of the tournament. I know it's first games of the day, or first sets of the day.
Oh, wow, a fight straight away. Not quite sure if he was ready for it. dibe goes down immediately. I mean, and actually goes to Nyx this time.
You very rarely actually see a frag that early with just the regular machine gun. That was unique.
I mean, Zanes, we've seen that from him a lot already. We saw it a ton on Blood Covenant. Haven't had the chance to see it as much on this map. But that aggressive style, that rushing in your face, he does that all the time. To start this off immediately, he caught that close spawn. And instead of just going for power up, he was like, no messing around. This is where I get a frag.
Well, it's almost two styles. He'll be aggressive at the start to secure the champion lead. And once he's got that, he switches it and then plays defensively and really frustrates dibe into trying to make a play happen because he's no longer the one that's in control of the pace.
But yeah, I actually think that's something that dibe has been struggling with quite a lot, is that Zanes seems to be a little bit more powerful when it comes to the start of the round, whereas dibe takes a little bit of wind-up time, maybe a little bit of warming up. Zanes is just ready to fight and start brawling as soon as that round hits 0.
A big part of that, I think, is because he starts with Nyx, consistently starts with Nyx as well. She is a champion that can have that aggressive start because you can use the Ghost Walk aggressively if need be, but if your aggressive start doesn't work out, you can use the Ghost Walk to get out of this. They're going to trade it 1-for-1. I think both players not really interested in getting caught off guard, so they're both going to be invincible for a short time. Hang on a minute. He's caught him going in, and there we go. Zanes caught trying to go towards that heavy armor, and dibe with a good read.
Oh, my one gets hit with the rail straight away. Zanes is very weak already, trying to top himself up, but 100 health. That is still one direct rocket. Needs to get himself some armor as soon as he can, but you know, you've got to be careful.
They're going to meet head on, but Zanes takes the mega health, so that's fantastic. dibe once more. Had a good call on that, but I think because he got the mega health instead, that just wasn't enough to fight with.
See the heavy armor's up though, who's going to get hold of it? Most likely Zanes at this point, but not quite sure. Obviously you got to be careful.
He would have just heard Zanes take that heavy armor too, and just look at how stacked he is.
We always talk about how sort of hesitant these players are when going for those big pickups, especially on this map, and that's kind of that summed up. Ooh, trying to get a sneaky attack on him. Oh no, no damage. He made the read, that's where he was, but ultimately just didn't shoot quite in the right location.
Well, he tried to do, I think, on reaction of him picking it up at that stage. I mean, rocket travel times and all that.
Well, to be fair, look at how much health and armor Zanes now has. If this fight breaks out, Zanes is going to be a lot healthier.
He's caught him, and there's that rail as well. No doubt he knows how much damage he's done, so I think Zanes is going to chase this one down.
Ghostwalker only just came back though, so we can see that dibe now has that lifeline, that good escape option. And right now, neither player is actually doing a great job of just chasing down that Ghostwalk. They are quite content just seeing the Ghostwalk and sort of just resetting it back to, okay, right, Ghostwalk's done, let's just get away. And oh wow, yeah, Zanes once again with that aggression.
I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised that we saw dibe stay there because he really was especially weak compared to Zanes. Maybe he thought Zanes was not as strong as he was at the time, but he did get punished quite heavily for that one.
Ready those Zanes now, 2 champions to 1. Oh, picks up the heavy armor. Yep, going to get it uncontested this time. dibe not quite in position to stop him.
But consistently, dibe will be hearing that, so he's gonna. It doesn't even matter, but he would consistently hear that he's picked it up. So he knows he can't fight if he gets caught off guard. But one big thing Zanes has done this entire series is just control those really important pickups. He's the one consistently taking the ones that he needs. So when the fight happens, he's more than healthy enough to make sure that he comes off on top. But this time around, dibe going with the Nyx immediately. We really haven't seen this much, but at this stage, Zanes only needs one more round.
I think he is quite content just forcing this now. I mean, obviously, he is potentially 1 round away from being eliminated. If you're going to try something else, you may as well do it now. Yeah, Zanes isn't going to be chasing him down.
We had no armor.
Yeah, exactly. dibe has to be very careful.
I get someone with rail. Just having to use the Ghost Walk just to get out of there without getting checked by the rail again. That was a really good exchange for Zanes. That heavy armor, but not interesting.
Wow, what a shot.
Actually, instead, I feel like dibe might have tried to go down there to head him off, but he didn't see the invisibility, and there we go. Zanes managing to slip past a little bit of BM there, grind him up as he's dead. But in that exchange right there, I think Zanes made a good call. dibe tried to go down to almost meet him, knowing he was going to challenge it, but
I mean, Zanes is just finding himself consistently 1 step ahead in these sort of engagements that he forces. This time we can see dibe trying to take it to a little bit more, but dibe very low on health. Has to be super careful taking a fight now for at least get a few pickups now to sort of big himself back up again. Yeah, himself the rocket at least, but that is basically the only weapon he has access to right now.
He's been able to take a little bit of health, but it's not going to be enough if he turns around and gets it, which he does. That was all he needed. And just like that, he only needs 1 more champion, and Zanes is moving on, and dibe, he'll be out. He'll be out for good.
This could be the match point frag for Zanes, though. Scalebearer by himself, dibe's most comfortable character.
Oh, no.
But this fight already, is he going to get melted? And he does. Zanes is able to convincingly take map number 2 after, once again, a slow start. But he was able to clutch it out.
Nyx Really well played Nyx, I think, is what we mainly saw there. Whenever he got caught off guard, he had the Ghost Walk exactly when he needed it. He kind of knew when to use it aggressively as well, and it's just a good mix. You know, she can really do multiple different things. At the last minute, we did see him sort of attempt to go for the Nyx mirror at the last second. I think we should have maybe have seen that earlier, because when you've got one Nyx that's doing well to start with, challenging it with your own is, I mean, it's beneficial for you if your Nyx is as capable. I mean, the ability with certain champions will be different between each player, and maybe just wasn't confident in his Nyx compared to Zane's one.
But overall, good set from him, though. We saw a very slow pace, and we said at the start, that's what we were kind of expecting to see. Slow. But seeing it go down to sort of a lot of different timeouts, a lot of almost like using the clock against them, we expect to see that, and I expect we're going to be seeing that a lot more as the evening goes on. But
on Blood Run in particular, we saw a couple of exchanges there where they would kind of read that the opponent was going to wait for them to take the heavy armor, so they just sort of sit there and wait for it. So they would actually jump down before they take it and get that free damage before the opponent's kind of seen them. At the last minute, we saw dibe try and do that, where he's like, well, Zanes is just going to wait for me to take this heavy armor, so I'm going to go down and meet him. I kind of feel like Zanes was ready for that, and that really is the theme of what we saw throughout that series, was just Zanes was ready for basically everything dibe tried to do. What seemed like a good idea at the time, Zanes just capitalized on and punished him for it almost every single time he caught him.
Indeed. But once again, I actually think they both ran the same composition the whole time, though.
Yeah, it was exactly the same, non-stop.
dibe really favouring that scale bearer. We saw on the other time, Zanes was able to sort of go for that Nyx, looking really strong. I think getting the first frag a lot of the time was very important, because dibe just clearly wasn't as comfortable from the back foot and was continuously forced on the back foot round after round by losing his first champion every time. And just wasn't able to sort of swing that momentum.
Well, it's kind of crazy, really, because some of the rounds that we saw, most of the rounds, in fact, that we saw go against Zanes was when he forgot about the timeout. So after all of those happened, and he kind of realized that, hang on a minute, the timer exists, maybe I shouldn't sort of give up these rounds through my own errors, right? So when we see that, I'm just sort of listening to the sound right there. It can be a bit distracting, but when you notice that the timer is an issue, and then you kind of capitalize on that right there, if only he had a railgun. He was forced into using his next best option, which was heavy machine gun. And if your opponent's got a rail, that just is not a trade that you want to take.
I actually think that the heavy machine gun is almost like the unsung hero a lot of the times in these fights. Because how many times have you seen somebody, especially on something like Corrupted Keep, right, where you don't have that rail, but just quickly swapping to it to get that few shots, that few sort of reliable bits of damage. We see that every week. And I think the heavy machine gun might be one of my favorite weapons to watch because of that.
Well, it's because when you zoom in, it does more damage too. It's got that reduced rate of fire, but on something like Corrupted Keep, when you've got no rail, that's kind of like the next best thing. Or in that situation, when you've got no rail, it kind of has to be, just purely by default. But either way, we'll be seeing Zanes move on. Unfortunately, dibe will be going out, and that's going to be the story of week 4, I think, is that there's no time to mess around. You either qualify today, or that's it, you're done.
It's going to be quite upsetting, because every single person we see lose today, and even the ones that make it through to Sunday's playoffs, every single player that loses, this is where their dual hopes and dreams for the Quake World Championships end, right? And it's going to be sad to see, but that's just the way it goes in these crazy competitive gaming things. I was going to go somewhere really cool with that, and I forgot.
You just sort of lost it halfway through.
I did.
Maybe for next time. We're going to go for a quick break while we set up our next match throughout this duel bracket, and while we do that, don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back.